Folks, hello, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. You're all very welcome. Delighted to have you with me today, whether you're tuned in live on Zoom, watching back on a recording afterwards, after the event, or coming in on some of our other channels, YouTube and podcast. My name is Rob Magee. I'm the CEO here at Ingenio. Delighted to have a huge number of people joining us for the first time for our May series. And also great to see so many people back who have been with us over the last couple of weeks, or indeed the last couple of months. Folks, I guess just by way of introduction, what are we talking about here today? We are talking over the course of May, we are going to be running a topic or a series which is called The Ultimate Guide to really understanding the job interview process. What is that all about? It is about not just the skills and the techniques and the tools required in an interview, but actually really understanding the process so that you can own it, that you can control it in as much as you possibly can as a candidate, that you can influence it, which is really, really important. And that's what we're going to be covering over the next 4 weeks. The topic, as you see, what are we talking about today? It's really owning the job interview process. That's what we want to really tune into today. So it's understanding typically what the interview process looks like for organizations. And we'll certainly be able to bring you and give you some really good insight into what technology and software businesses are doing in this space right here, right now. And next week and the week after and the week after, we're going to be talking about some very specific things that you can go and do. As I said right at the beginning, it's to own and control this process in as much as you possibly can. Clearly, you're not the creator of the process. That's clearly the organization that you're going to be interviewing for. But we definitely believe that there are tips and hacks and tools that you can adopt and deploy to be able to control this stuff in as much as you possibly can. And ultimately, this is all about benefit and outcome. And look, why are we doing this? Well, look, I guess the first reason, and most importantly for everyone who tunes in regularly, we're in this really to help people through what is a really weird, strange job market at the moment. The second reason we're doing this is we've built a course, and we've been selling this to students all over the world over the last 6 months or so. And clearly, this is an introductory kind of piece into that. So let me kick on. Just in terms of the interview stage. So I want to talk to you today about when let's assume for a second, and let's put yourself in a position. So you are applying for jobs, and what I want to try and get you doing right now at application stage, or even before that, is I really want to try and get you to think about what are the typical types of interviews that you will go through in terms of getting a job. And look, this is our expertise and forte is all in technology and software, for technology and software organizations, I should say, not necessarily for those types of roles. But this does apply for lots of organizations of other industries, right? So if you're going into banking or finance, if you're going into pharmaceutical, if you're going into manufacturing, these organizations typically have, reasonably kind of similar processes that they follow. We are seeing right now, and by the way, this is not the case for every single organization. Some of them hire quite differently, but we are typically seeing organizations interview or engage with candidates in a multi-stage engagement. And we're typically seeing those stages being somewhere between kind of 3 and 4 touch points or exercises or interview stages, as we've called them there. The first one is get to know you, GTKY, is get to know you, or it may well be used as a screen. And look, these are really, really tricky. These are really tricky interviews. And the reason they're really tricky, they're designed to be so because they're effectively the first hurdle. And what they want to do is they effectively want to try and catch candidates who go through or who get involved in an interview process who really shouldn't be there. So if you think about it, that's what interviewing is all about. It's about filtering out or filtering through candidates. So in that first session, in the getting to know you, it'll be get to know you if it's with a hiring manager. And if it's not with a hiring manager, i.e. it could be with an internal recruiter or someone from HR, then it's a screen. And it's really, really important that you understand right at the beginning of that interview whether it's a get to know you or whether it's a screen. And it's amazing how many candidates fall at that first hurdle because they just don't understand what type of interview they're actually getting themselves involved in. Okay, so just to be really clear, if the person that you are going to be working for, i.e. the hiring manager, is in that first session, then it's a get to know you. And what are they looking for? They want to know if they can work with you and you can work with them, if there's a connection, if there's a fit, if there is at a high level a capability, skill set, experience, and cultural connection. Okay, that's what they're looking for. If it's someone from HR or internal recruitment or a recruiter, what are they looking for? They're looking for something different. What they want to do is they effectively want to screen or filter, because ultimately you will not be working for them going forward, and that's really, really important. So absolutely crucial that first off, you get yourself into a situation position where you figure out what is that first interview all about, okay? And those first sessions, if they're conducted like that, they will typically last no longer than 30 minutes. So 15 to 30 minutes, very, very light touch, very brief, not huge level of detail, and definitely not looking to explore your CV or resume in any kind of significant fashion. Okay, so that's the first one. Assuming you get through that, then what happens is you will go through to second stage, which is the formal interview with your future hiring manager. And maybe included in that will also be a couple of your peers, potential peers. So people who would be working alongside you or potentially working for you as part of that organization or structure. And that second session, we're going to do a lot more work on that one next week and the week after. That second interview is a really detailed and really structured formal interview. It typically has 4 sections. We talk about those 4 sections in our course all the time, and that's what you need to be preparing against. Just to recap in terms of what those 4 sections are, in terms of a formal interview, there is, you let section 1, let the client open up and talk about them, their role, the job, the company, their expectations. The second section is the you story. Giving an overview of you and your background and your capability and your experience. The third section is Q&A from the client to you. Lots of competency-based, scenario-based, capability, experience-based questions, but really importantly, questions from you to your potential and future employer. So two-way Q&A. And section 4 is the close, the wrap-up, the summary and the actions. Okay, so that's typically the structure that the formal interview will take. And again, we've got literally a whole section in our course built to help you really structure around that piece. Third phase, and by the way, the third phase might come in a little earlier in some instances, and in some cases it might come in a little later. It depends on the organization. It's a test, and that test will be completely different based on the type of job that you're going for, or indeed the type of organization that you're going for. So let me give you an example of some of the things that we're seeing this week. We've got candidates of ours who are going for very deep, detailed technical tests, let's say, for example, from a software development or engineering perspective. Okay. We also have some candidates who are going through psychometric personality assessment tests that basically gives the interviewer a real insight into what's going on up here, how you think, how you approach things, how you react to certain situations, so that they've got some context to be able to interview you with and against. We've got other organizations who have basically pulled together cultural compatibility tests. So look, there's a whole stack of things that organizations are trying to test people on and against. And again, why? They want to, number one, determine what an individual looks like or is potentially going to be like to work with. And number two, it's to be able to screen and filter people out. Okay. And then the final stage then in an interview process is typically it's the end of the process. It's a culmination of lots of different sessions. And typically you'll be asked, depending on the seniority of the role, of course, but you'll typically be asked to present something. And that might be some research, it might be some findings, it might be maybe telling them about your approach in your role, it might be, let's say, for example, if you're in sales or marketing, how you would address opening up a new market or a new client segment or whatever the case may be. And listen, don't get too freaked out if doing a presentation kind of spooks you, right? It's not necessarily always the case, but it is being used like so much more than it was even kind of 3 or 4 years ago. So you need to be really, really comfortable kind of doing something in that kind of presentation format. So that is delivering something and then talking about the results or the outcome or the output. And typically those types of presentation interviews stages are typically done to a panel or a broad number of people, one of which obviously would be your hiring manager. A couple of people might be, again, in technology and software businesses, people that you would work into or with. So it could be pre-sales, it could be product, it could be sales, marketing, could be engineering, could be finance, whatever the case may be. And typically what you're finding is that organizations, by bringing more people into an interview process, it means that typically they're less likely to mess the process up and kind of have cultural misfits or compatibility misfits or indeed capability, skill set and experience misfits. So look, that's what the interview stage looks like. So look, when you're preparing for an interview, the key takeaway for you here today, when you're preparing for an interview, the question is not what do I prepare for? It's what type of interview are you preparing for? Okay. Who's going to be in the interview? But really importantly, what's the agenda? What's the topic? And what is this organization trying to get or extract out of you from that particular interview process? So that is really, really, really important. And that's something that, as I said, we tune in in a huge amount of detail into our course. I'm going to talk, as we do every week, we've got a live Q&A. So I know there's loads of questions coming in. Stay on, and if you've got questions, drop them into the Q&A. Alex is going to serve them up for me. But look, really quickly, what I wanted to very quickly talk to you and show you, our course Ingenio Learning, we are delighted and very, very proud now to have a very specific success-based metrics that 90% of our students get hired by technology software businesses within 90 days. How do they do that? They basically, they purchase and take our course. And what you're seeing here is you're seeing our course curriculum. So basically, this is how we set out our course, okay? You've got section 1 is all around really detailed, intense career coaching and career counseling to really get you set up and structured. Section 2 helps you really understand what technology and software businesses are all about, how they're structured. Section 3 is all around, I've mentioned that so many times, what is your job? What is your career? How are you going to work and really impress someone very specifically. And the last section is all around getting hired. So everything through from CV profile through to working with recruiters, uh, having an appreciation for the technology, robotics, automation, AI that's in play, and then talking about things like interview prep, getting hired, engaging with organizations, and negotiating yourself, the very best package as an outcome. Okay. All this stuff is on our website, so you can have a look, but this is what some of our students have said about taking our course and about engaging with us. I'll leave you to go through that in your own time. And look, by the way, a shout out to my own team who've put together some amazing visuals based around this. But look, these are the types of organizations that our students, after taking our course, have gone on and got hired by. And look, some of those organizations need no introduction, particularly in the tech and software space. Really interestingly, we've had a number of people get hired within the technology divisions of very large banks, B of A and BNY specifically there. And then some of these organizations are not necessarily household name, but really cool niche specific software SaaS organizations. So look, hopefully that just gives you an appreciation of what you can expect to get after taking the course. For everyone tuned in, and you'll all have signed up to be here today or listening in, for anyone tuned in today, we have a promo discount for anyone who's on the webinar today. It's a 70% discount, 70% course reduction. And that course comes in at just under 30 euros, which, look, I really want to try and get you thinking about value for money. Does 30 euros, does it, in terms of your career, your future earnings, your dream job, your dream company, does that prove and provide value for money? Well, look, I certainly think it does. Our previous students who've taken the course think it does. And look, I hope you'd agree with me on that. We also have a one-to-one career coaching service. If you want more information on this, and perhaps you've got an interview coming up that you want to do some specific one-to-one prep for with me, if you want more information on that one, drop it into the chat box.